Well, welcome to the two people that are here currently. Thanks for taking the time out of your day to join us. My name is Nicole. I'm an environmental programs assistant for the city of Cupertino, and I'll be hosting today's webinar. And I'm joined today by the city of Cupertino environmental programs manager, Ursula Serova, who will be talking about garbage and recycling services, possible rate increases, and to learn about new state legislation to keep organic materials out of the garbage. And so before we get started, we've got a few items to go over. The webinar will be recorded. So we'll be, sorry about that. We'll be putting out the YouTube link after this video. And questions, we'll be doing a live Q&A at the very end. So if you have any questions, please submit it using the Q&A chat box. Or alternatively, you can also submit questions via email to environmental@cupertino.org. And with that, I'll hand it off to you, Ursula.
All right, thanks, Nicole, and thanks to people showing up. And even though we're just small here during this presentation, you know, it will be recorded, like Nicole said, so people who didn't have a chance to watch live can have a chance to catch up and watch it later. So we're just gonna press on as if there's a whole big group of you in a room, and I'm just very happy for those who could take time out, either during this live time or later during recording. So I'm going to go ahead and share my screen. Alrighty, hopefully everyone can see that. And so basically I have close to 20-minute presentation, and then we'll answer any questions that have come in. So I'm just going to get started. And so this Zoom meeting is our outreach meeting, really focused on our businesses and multifamily property managers. So yesterday we had a Zoom that was more targeted to our residents, and so we just wanted to give everyone an opportunity to hear about what aspects of this new franchise agreement might affect them. So hopefully these bins look familiar to you. We're certainly glad you joined to learn more about this new agreement we're negotiating with Recology. And we were going to do a poll of people, but since there's so few people, I don't know if it's really worth running the poll here live. So I think I will just press on from this. Okay. So basically Recology has been our hauler for a long time. The current agreement was signed back in 2010. It's been extended a couple times, and it expires in January of 2021. So that's why we are interested to get a new agreement ready. And why are we only negotiating with Recology? So our current agreement allowed the option of negotiating just with Recology if certain conditions were met, and those conditions were met. They were around diversion, program development, and limited rate adjustments. So at the April 21st, 2020 City Council meeting, Council gave us approval to do this, what we call sole source negotiation. We are planning to have a new agreement to Council in the winter, and hopefully to get that all approved in time, before the end of January expiration date. Just in case things, just to make sure we're covered for trash collection, we do have an 18-month bridge agreement with Recology that can spring into place if we don't have a new agreement in place by the end of January, and that would ensure that garbage keeps getting collected and services continue while we either finish up the negotiation with Recology or have to go out to a wider bid. And then we'll keep, even though this is a sole source negotiation, we always keep the rates in, we compare with our neighboring cities, and we have a consultant who helps us just make sure that everything's really in line and makes sense. We currently have some of the lowest garbage rates in the region. We'll talk about that in a few minutes. And our goal is to maintain that balance of rates and services, low rates, high level of service that we've become used to. And we know that the new agreement needs to reflect the needs and values of our community while meeting new and pending, current and pending regulations. So I just wanted to run through current services available to businesses. I just grabbed this out of Recology's service guide, so hopefully these bins look familiar to folks for garbage, organics, and recycling. Recycling, as I like to say, it's not just a good idea, it's the law. So there actually is AB 341 made recycling mandatory for commercial accounts. So commercial businesses and multifamily properties need to have recycling, and so that's available to everybody. And hopefully you are making use of your blue bins and keeping those materials clean and dry. Containers, we really like them to be empty and dry so that the paper can remain clean and marketable. We have what's called single stream recycling in Cupertino. So everything's going into one bin. So that's why the dry is especially important, so that our paper, which is being commingled with our containers, can stay as clean as possible. After it's collected, recycling gets taken over to Green Waste in San Jose for processing and marketing. That arrangement is expected to continue, but that's up to Recology to work out. That's where it's been going currently. And that's where they, we put it all together in a bin and they take it all apart again, so that paper's with paper and plastics with plastics and all that. So that's kind of how that works. Organics. So this is again from the service guide. These are the materials that we'd like to see in the organics bins: food and food soiled paper, plants and trimmings, untreated wood, coffee grounds, all that good stuff. And again, not just a good idea, but the law, AB 1826, required businesses to have access to organics collection. And Cupertino also made the service available to multifamily properties, even though the state hadn't required that yet. And this was rolled out based on businesses and how much solid waste they were generating, how much service they were subscribed to. Just a quick look at what those phases looked like. So AB 1826 required these phases, and like I said, Cupertino rolled it out a little quicker than the state. So we were, close to a year ahead of the state on rolling these phases out. And our phase 3 included multifamily dwellings, like I said, which the state did not. And then most recently, the state said, basically we didn't make enough progress on diverting those organics. And so they're ratcheting down the requirement to create a phase 4. So now businesses and properties generating at least 2 cubic yards of solid waste, and that's the volume of all your bins and carts. If it adds up to at least 2 cubic yards, we need to make sure that you have access to organics service as well. So where do those organics go after they're collected? I grabbed this lovely sort of Google Earth shot off of the Blossom Valley Organics website. This is an aerial view of the Blossom Valley facility where the commercial organics are taken to be composted and processed into compost. And that is a Recology-owned facility. Okay, garbage. Garbage is going to be, the items that couldn't go in the recycling or the organics. So that could be gloves, food service gloves, COVID masks and PPE, wrappers, plastic utensils and straws, broken glassware, broken ceramics, pet waste and pet litter. All that stuff needs to go into the garbage. And garbage, after it's picked up, is taken directly to Newbie Island Landfill in the Milpitas area, and no further processing happens. It's just taken there directly. So what kind of extra services beyond that basic collection of those 3 streams is available to businesses and multifamily properties? We talk a lot, in our groups, we talk a lot about technical assistance. So, this sorting can be complicated. So, both Recology and the city can offer technical assistance for sorting and training employees on how all this is supposed to happen and where you're supposed to throw things out. Both Recology and the city can provide these little, what we call Slim Jim containers. They're these containers you could have, say if you're a restaurant, have it in your prep station where you can get those organics contained at the back of house. Can provide you some signage, can give you guidance on right sizing so that you have the right size bins to manage your waste. For multifamily properties, a lot of the same services are available to multifamily properties as are to single family. So Christmas tree pickup, on-call collections. Could also have the option of having a little, small e-waste collection site in, say, the property office. And we can also offer, through Recology, a durable tote bag so that multifamily residents can transport recyclables, from their apartment down to the trash enclosure. We will also offer residents a free pail or pitcher for collecting food scraps as well. So I never like to let an outreach opportunity go by without mentioning hazardous waste. So as a business, you might be generating hazardous waste, and if you only generate a small amount, you could use the county's household hazardous waste drop-off program. You might qualify as a very small quantity generator, is what they call it. So if you just generate a little bit of hazardous waste, and the kind of hazardous waste we're talking about here is going to be, solvents, paint, pesticides, fertilizers, cleaning supplies, things like that. The county folks can certainly help you figure more of that out if you have questions. And so I just always like to throw that out there and direct people over there if that's helpful. If you're generating larger amounts of hazardous waste, then you probably already have a service set up to help you manage that. And we can always help and answer questions if you have any. All right, so as we entered into this negotiation process, we really wanted to try and find out what businesses think, so that we can be informed about needs in the community. So we created a survey. We wanted to find out how valuable these extra services are, satisfaction with Recology, talk a little bit about rates. So we, on the residential side, we did a formal survey that reached out to 700, they got 700 responses from residents, which was great from a statistically significant standpoint. But we came up with a different set of questions for businesses and multifamily property managers, just because we know that you have a little bit different concerns. So we made those available online. So if you want to take the survey, you can still hop onto our website and have access to those questions. There's an online sort of portal for the survey. It's also available in Chinese. And if you really feel like you need a paper version of that, then we're happy to send you one. If you just write to us, email us or call us, we can print out a copy and send it over to you, kind of old school. What have we learned so far? Well, only a few business folks have taken our survey, so we don't really have much that we can report out yet on that. So just continue to encourage people to participate. We were thinking to have the surveys open at least through mid-October. So, don't wait, hop on over there and tell us what you think about things. That would be very helpful. Okay, what else do we need to consider as we are thinking about these negotiations? Well, there is one big thing that is important, which is 1383, the short-lived climate pollutants regulations. So there's a new regulation coming in 2022. Basically, the state didn't do well enough, diverting organics with the 1826 regulations that we already had. And California also started thinking about all the edible food that was getting thrown away, kind of the food waste issue, and having a lot of hungry people in the state that are food insecure, and thinking about all these organics that end up in the landfill that are generating methane, which is a very impactful greenhouse gas. It's like 72 times as damaging as other greenhouse gases. So they were looking at all these issues and came up with these new regulations, which, like I said, are going to go into effect in 2022. The goal is a 75% reduction of organics in the garbage by 2025. And it includes this element of food rescue. So that's where If you are a big restaurant or a large food generator, say you're a big grocery store with a deli or something, depending on the guidelines, you're going to need to capture that edible food, and instead of putting it in with the organics at the end of the day, you're going to want to enter into an agreement with someone that can channel that over to hungry folks and rescue that food for humans to eat. And everybody, businesses, residents, everybody is really going to need to try harder to get the food scraps and food soiled paper into their organics carts and bins. And it goes beyond just friendly encouragement. The state says that come 2024, we're actually going to have to start issuing, enforcing in a penalty kind of way. So we will be, required by the state to really follow up and not only monitor, but give feedback and even issue penalties to folks who are not complying with these regulations. And the city and Recology, are going to be working on this together, and we're required to keep records of all these activities and report back to the state. So it's a pretty significant set of regulations and requirements. Okay, why 1383? I touched on this a little bit already, but organic waste is the largest waste stream in California. And when they considered, like I said, the methane ending, being generated in the landfills, food insecure people, the amount of food waste that we see when we do waste characterizations, this is a way to really tackle that. Okay, but why 1383 in Cupertino? Well, we are lucky that we just did 2 waste characterizations. We did a single family one in 2018 and a commercial one in 2019. And so here's a snapshot of those results. And you can see here for single family, we're at 52% compostable by weight. And then if we look at multifamily, very similar, 51% compostable by weight in the garbage. And commercial, 48% by weight is compostable in the garbage. So we see it right here in Cupertino as well. Now this slide I grabbed from How Recycle. It talks a little bit more about how this is going to roll out. Similar to 1826, we're going to target the largest generators first. So there's going to be a tier 1 and tier 2. Tier 1 is going to be the largest food producers, grocery stores, supermarkets. And then tier 2 in 2024 is going to loop in large restaurants, hotels, health facilities. And then on our part, we're going to have to do, in cooperation with Recology, route reviews of all the routes to verify service and inspect for contamination. And we have to check for that edible food recovery arrangement, like I was talking about before. Do you large food generator, do you have an arrangement with a food rescue organization to get that edible food diverted? And what this always makes me think about, and I told this story yesterday, but when I was part of a waste assessment a number of years ago, a load came in from a tech company, and when they dumped out the bin, there was literally a little mountain of perfectly good bagels. So that's the kind of food waste that's seen in waste characterizations, and that really has fueled this kind of regulation. So rate changes are expected with this new agreement, and that's going to be influenced by the services that we negotiate. So that's again why we're trying to figure out which services are valuable. Some of the services we talked about, like the technical assistant, that just helps you to help us, to help everybody, do this diversion properly. So that's really helpful to everyone. But, we're trying to understand what's valuable to folks. And like I said, these new state regulations there's a lot. There's just a lot with auditing and reporting. And so that could mean, additional staff needed, that sort of thing. So we're taking all that into account. The recycling markets internationally, as probably a lot of you know, have been weak. The China National Sword set of policies really, threw a wrench into the whole normal way of doing things with recycling and marketing those recyclables. So we're still, dealing with that. That's part of this equation as well. And then increased labor rates and for garbage and recycling company employees are also an issue. So these are some of the some of the many things that we're considering as we work through this negotiation. And there's another thing that is also being discussed, which is the way that service rates are reflected right now. So currently, if you're a business, you're charged for the amount of service you have for your garbage and organics, and then recycling has kind of been included, sort of I put quote unquote free, but the cost of that service, you know, picking up and getting it processed and everything has just been kind of rolled in to the rest of the rate. And we're now considering breaking that cost out. It would be less than garbage because recycling still does retain, you know, value on the market, but it's less than it was, and there is a cost to process it. So jurisdictions are moving more in this direction to show this cost as a separate item rather than lumping it in with everything else. So that's something that may be considered. I just wanted to put this up. This gives you an idea of how we compare right now with our rates. The top line is where we are at today with rates for 3-yard service. And in November, we will go through our regular annual rate adjustment, which is based on the Consumer Price Index. So the current agreement just says, hey, every year we do this CPI calculation and the rates go up by that amount. This year, it's going to be 3.05%. So we went ahead and calculated that in just so we see what that looks like because it's coming up pretty soon. So you can see even with that CPI adjustment, we're still at the very low end, the lowest, you know, end of the rates in our area. And we keep an eye on this comparison. You know, not all services are identical city to city, so we have to keep that in mind as well. But Cupertino has traditionally been on this low end of the rate scale, and we would like to keep it there. So we are keeping that in mind. Other future things we have to think about. Our current landfill, so that picture I showed you of Newbie Island where our garbage gets delivered, that agreement ends in late 2023. And so then that will present us with the question of where should our garbage go after that? Should we keep sending it directly to a landfill, or we would have the option to consider sending garbage to a material processing facility. So some cities do send their garbage to get processed, and that can in some cases essentially rescue an additional third of that material out either as organics or divertible recyclables. So this is something we can consider. We'll need to really evaluate where we're at. We'll probably have another, you know, waste characterization done so we can really see how we're doing. By then we will have had, you know, a good year of the new organics regulations so we can see how that has impacted us and just try to figure out what's going to be the best for the community and rates and our diversion levels. So next steps, surveys, like I said, are still available online. We would love to hear from anyone who would like to participate. We are having a study session with City Council next Tuesday. It's going to cover a lot of this same ground and some additional information as well. You can email us. The whole team will receive emails to environmental@cupertino.org. And we'll just continue with negotiations. And like I said, we have our goal of having a final agreement to the City Council in the winter. So we're happy to answer questions from the chat box. We're happy to answer questions through email. You can call us, and you know, we will do our best to keep you informed as we go forward. And what I'm going to do now is stop the screen sharing and check in with Nicole to see how we're doing with the question and answer box.
Yeah, thank you, Ursula. We do not have any questions yet. If you have any, now's the time. Drop them into the Q&A box.
I see we gained one more attendee, another name that I recognize, so shout out to everyone out there. Well, we certainly don't need to keep everyone longer than you want, but we're certainly happy you showed up. And like we said, this was recorded, so folks that didn't get a chance to watch and are interested will have that opportunity. I think it'll take a few days and it'll be up on the city's YouTube channel. So we're happy we can provide that. I'll just stare awkwardly at your little icons for a minute. All right. Well, oh, I do see a hand. I don't know if we can allow.
Yeah, I think I can do that.
All right. Sherry, I think you're allowed to talk.
I just want to say you guys have done a fantastic job, and I wish we had the same services here in Los Gatos.
Aw.
Thank you for a great presentation.
Aw, thank you, Sherry.
Thank you.
Our celebrity guest. It's very good to hear your voice.
Okay,
All
and we
right.
do have one question that came in through the Q&A. Do tech companies apply under Tier 2 for the food recovery regulation?
That's a good question, and it'll depend on, it's based on your total solid waste, so the service that you're subscribed to. I realize that in COVID, and especially thinking about what tech company this might be that's asking, and I know, you've scaled back probably a lot of your solid waste with shelter in place and work from home. But that's the kind of thing that we'd come out and help evaluate with you, see what kind of service you're subscribed to, look at how much organics you're generating, and see what tier you'd fall into. I mean, if this tech company was working at full strength like it was pre-COVID, I would think that's a very high possibility that you'd be in Tier 1 or Tier 2. So we can help you figure it out. All right. Well, thank you to all three of you. And if you're watching later on YouTube, thank you for tuning in. We really appreciate it. And we'll just say again that we're happy to answer questions if you want to email us or call us. And we invite you to join us at the study session and keep tuned into this process as we continue forward with negotiations. So I guess with that, we will just close out the meeting and let you all get on with your day.
Thank you.
Thanks, everybody.